We're going to open our meeting today with the invocation from Reverend Dennis Hall, the pastor at Pioneer Baptist Church. If everyone would please stand.
I'd like to say thank you to Commissioner Brock for asking me to come this afternoon. Let us go to the Lord in prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. We thank you for this county that we live in. We thank you for the beauty of it. We thank you for the people. We thank you for this commission. Father, tonight we pray that you give them guidance and leadership. Father, they come to you for wisdom in their decisions to be made tonight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Hall. His church actually hosted the National Day of Prayer service and prayed for all of us this last Thursday, and we really appreciate that. Thank you. Moving on, we have a public hearing to start the approval of the agenda. Any changes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a brief announcement.
Okay. Any additional changes?
Move to approve the agenda.
All right. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to open the meeting with a public hearing. I believe that will be led by
I'm leading.
David Edwards and Louis Serna. Thank you. Right?
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. This request comes to you based on board direction from February 22nd. This is a request to allow temporary uses for the sale of food and produce in commercially zoned parcels for periods of up to 1 year with the ability to request 1-year extensions. Staff has prepared a draft of this change to the land development regulations, which is attachment 3 of your package. This item went to the Planning Commission on April 9th. They recommended that this item not move forward. They recommended that it not be approved. They brought forth some concerns with the ordinance and temporary uses in general, and I can go through those or answer any questions that you have. Staff is also not recommending that you approve this ordinance in its current form.
I move to conduct the final public hearing and vote not to adopt the proposed ordinance amending sections 572 and 573 of the Land Development Code pertaining to temporary use permits issued by the Community Development Director based upon the recommendation of the Planning Department and findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the Board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any citizens to be heard, Katie, on this issue? Ms. Judith Harris?
Judith Harris, 89 Greeno Road, South Choppy. I'm not representing, but I was serving as the alternate commissioner at that planning meeting that this was recommended not to be approved. And the concern of the members of the planning commission was that it put the more regular businesses in the county at a disadvantage, that the fee for these temporary businesses was so low and the standards for them were also very low, and they felt like our regular businesses, our people trying to establish businesses here, would have a hard time competing with that if that was to increase. Thank you.
Any further discussion from the board?
I'm the one that brought this up, and I want to apologize for wasting everybody's time. I'm not smarter than a unanimous planning board or staff, I'll admit that, so not even one person on the planning council voted for it, so who am I to say I'm smarter than anybody else?
So what are you saying, that you still want to do it, or?
I mean, Planning Commission wasn't in support of it at all. I mean, Lou, I think you know what I was trying to address.
Yes, I do, and you had some legitimate issues, but the Planning Commission brought forth some very legitimate concerns as well.
Understood. And is there, albeit a lengthy process, is there a process where a person could go through site plan approval and all that stuff and get their, I know the guy up here at the corner across from Trice Lane had to go through site plan approval and all kind of stuff, so I guess there is a process. I was trying to make it easier for people to be able to, do this kind of thing because they are legitimate businesses, but again, I'm not sitting here saying I know more than anybody else, so.
Well, and that was a general consensus of the Planning Commission, is that they go through the regular site plan process like other businesses.
I'm done with it.
Any further discussion?
I have some.
Commissioner Moore?
Basically, I met with the staff today, and it's always bothered me that people from other counties can come down here, especially on the weekends, and just set up shop. If you take at MedArt at 319 and 98, it looks like a holiday bazaar on Saturdays and Sundays. And to the best of my knowledge, these people do not pay taxes. There's one gentleman from time to time, he'll have 1,000 fishing rods, and AMS 100 yards down the road sells fishing rods. Crum sells fishing rods, and this guy is from somewhere else, showing up in our county, not paying any taxes, basically doing nothing except subtracting from our community and interfering with the people who have a facility and taking sales away from them. And we just had up at this past weekend, I believe, at 267 and 319, a fellow pulls a peach truck across a ditch in the middle of the curve just north of 267 selling peaches. It was a disaster waiting to happen. And a lot of I'd say 90% of these people on the weekend are from somewhere else. I know that several of them are. Where I came from, we had a proliferation of sidewalk vendors. If today we say that anybody on any commercial piece can set up a stand, we may have 50 commercial pieces up and down 319. So if in a wilder sense of the deal, a little down the future, we've got 50 vendors on the weekend selling whatever. And we don't get a dime of tax from that. And it just, the people who pay for their buildings and their lights and the utility tax we placed on them, it subtracts from their business. My feeling is that we have two produce stands that are major produce stands. We have one down in MedArt and we have one up here across from Trice. Basically leave those alone until such time as they should change hands. If they decide to change hands or sell their business, then we review their ability to be on that location or to do that business. I know that we have Hutton Seafood. That's sort of like the permanent, temporary business down in MedArt. He has a good business. He evidently has great food. He has a great business. But there's any number of businesses in that area that have heat, light, building, taxes, whatever and whatever. My deal would give him 2 years to establish himself as a brick and mortar building. Release him a place somewhere and be just like everybody else. But right now he has a tremendous advantage over the people who are doing business. It poses for one all the way down 98 there. And but I would ask the county not to grant any more temporary permits in that sort of thing. If somebody wants to come down to Wakulla and sell their product, let them go into the administration building, get a weekend permit, not a 180-day permit, get a weekend permit to sell their product. We charge them $50 for a weekend. They go down and they have a permit and they can sell their product. We know where they are, who they are. and we can check on him. And if we go out there on Saturday and you see 1,000 fishing rods and he doesn't have a permit, then we send him packing or whatever. I don't mind people doing business. I just it needs to be regulated, and I don't want to see this thing proliferate, and it will. Everybody will have an idea of what they want to sell, but we need to get a handle on it. We need to have a permit basis on it, and it needs to be, most of these vendors, if they want to come sell, they come here during the weekday and get a permit, and then we know who they are, and they paid a fee to do that, and they're not, at least they're paying their way somewhat. They'll never pay it all the way.
Even though this proposal is not going to pass, it wouldn't have anything to do with fishing reels, because it only has to do with food and produce vendors. So I understand your point, but it would not have allowed that, the fishing reel thing.
But even that, Randy, the fishing reels, the chairs and fishing reels, they're unregulated right now. Those guys just go down and they go down and set up, and away they go. Nobody, they're there on Saturday morning, they leave on Sunday afternoon, and they've taken our money back to Tallahassee. And so they need to be under a permit system for sure. And I don't think we need to license anybody else. The people who are there and who have been doing business with us, we continue. The Mr. Hutton gets him a new location in 2 years. Everybody else maybe gets them a location in 1 year. That's plenty of time for the vendors, and then just don't. But something on that order we need to do.
Jerry, are you talking about bringing back another revision to the ordinance that would, I think right now you can get up to 80, how many days is it?
80 days.
80 days in any calendar year as a temporary use is what is currently allowed. They would have to get permitted. I think one point Commissioner Moore is making, and that I know the county administrator has already looked into, is enforcing what's already there, because right now, as I said, most of it is occurring on weekends, and so you may see, and I don't know if you want to talk about stepped up enforcement.
Yeah, we're looking at making sure, the main thing I want to do is make sure we have all our ducks in a row before we step out, and that's what we're doing now. But one thing I do want to bring back at some time is we need to look at that 80 days, because that's almost an unenforceable mandate that on staff is we'd have to have somebody that actually went and counted every day, and we just don't have that type of staff, so therefore it becomes an unenforceable thing. And we'll come back with some language that is enforceable, that makes sense, where these folks can get a permit to do that, but yet also we can enforce.
And additionally, we really need to bring back something, because we do need to treat everyone similarly situated the same.
Commissioner Arntz?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Commissioner Merritt, I appreciate your identifying that there was a problem, and I think with this issue, in fact, most of the vendors aren't getting permits, and even if they are, there's enforcement difficulties. So, I think you accurately identified a problem, and I hope you won't feel badly about proposing a solution. So, I would like to thank the Planning Commission, who I thought had a very thorough analysis, a good discussion, and really helped to clarify how this could be harmful to local businesses and actually discourage new businesses. So we had kind of talked a little bit about it, but it really was a point of great concern to them. And we had narrowed it down from, to just produce and stuff.
State licensed people and taxes.
But I think, and I think it's good. It shows that our system works, and if anything, it gives me concern about some of the things we've been doing that take the Planning Commission and us out of it, but anyway, it's good. I thought they did a good job, the Planning Commission.
I think primarily a $50 fee for 180 days is a joke. The fee needs to be somewhat in respect to the kind of business they're doing, because if you charge them a $50 fee for 180 days, you've just given them a total free ride on the citizens of the county. we get absolutely nothing with a $50 fee for 180 days.
And I'm glad that staff is going to work on enforcement. Do you need a motion or direction from the board to...
We're already working on
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Next on our agenda this evening is the awards and presentations. First up this evening is presentation regarding Wakulla 2020 Advisory Committee from Mr. John Schuff.
Good evening, I'm John Schuff, 87 Tupelo Drive. I wanted to update y'all on the progress of the Wakulla 2020 Prioritization Committee. To date, we have developed a cost analysis for projects in Panacea, St. Mark's, and Highway 319. We're supposed to have some numbers on some choppy projects for tomorrow, and we'll review items for the Shell Point area also at tomorrow's meeting. We've been working with Dave Edwards and Cleve Fleming to include some of the county's capital outlay projects that are going to be included in the 5-year plan, or we hope to. We're getting discussions on that. And also have been reviewing the new bike ped plan that Kenley Horn just came out with the thought of hoping to be able to bring some of those plans into the initiative also. A little side, I was down in the Oak Street area today and was coming back out on Wakulla Aaron Road and saw a senior citizen coming down the highway in his hover-round. That's a problem. Anyway, we have had an institutional banker review the number of projections that we made when we had our meeting here 4 or 5 meetings ago, just to make sure that we were working on the same page and our numbers were correct, and they were. We have been meeting weekly with some sense of urgency because we're hoping that in some way, shape, or form we end up on the ballot this time, and we want to have a plan together for that. And in conclusion, we're missing 2 members that have not been since the initial meeting. One of those is Skip Young, who was appointed by the board as a Crawfordville representative, and Bill Mills, who I believe is an at-large representative, and would like to suggest, and have spoken with both of these people, and they're both willing to serve the committee. One is George Green, who would fill the at-large position, and the other one is Dan Henshey, who actually his business is right next door to Skip's in the Crawfordville business area there. Also works on the Okaloosa Bay Volunteer Fire Department. Anyway, we feel it's very important to replace those 2 positions just so we don't have any problems meeting quorums at meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. If I recall correctly, that there was another candidate besides Skip Young that was suggested for the Crawfordville, and that might have been who was that? I've forgotten.
Jeffy Walt.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm wondering, since he had initially been proposed, if he should be considered for that Crawfordville spot.
That's strictly y'all's decision. We just came up with a couple of people that we thought would be good suggestions.
Okay.
I know, and Jeff's a friend of mine. He has expressed an interest, and he was disappointed not to have been chosen. I was going to bring it up during discussion items at the end of the meeting today to try and get unanimous consent to move forward with appointing 2 new people to fill these spots. I'm okay with either Dan Henshey or Jeffy Walt, and I leave that up. We'll discuss it when it comes to discussion items, and before we make a motion.
Okay. Thank you.
But we will hopefully have that done at the end of the night's meeting. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Moving on, we have a presentation regarding free sports physicals on May 12th by Commissioner Lynn Arts, followed by another announcement by Commissioner Lynn Arts.
Thank you. The Wakulla Healthcare Task Force is again offering free sports physicals for middle and high school students on Saturday, May 12th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We've been offering these at the high school for a number of years. We're changing our location this year to the Tallahassee Memorial Family Medicine Office. at 15 Councilmore Road, just south of the courthouse. If you have a student athlete who will be a rising 7th grader to a rising 6th grader, I guess, to a 12th grader who hasn't heard about this, they need to touch base with somebody at their school. Everybody needs to come with a physical form that needs the parent's signature on the front page. Otherwise, the parent needs to attend or come back to sign it. The Wakulla Middle School will be reporting between 9 and 10, River Springs Middle School between 10 and 11, and the high school between 11 and 11 and 1. Because we don't have a lot of room for students to wait, we're doing something a little different this year, and we're having students come, or teams show up at specified times, so they should also make sure they know exactly what time their team is supposed to be there. And the primary reason is to serve student athletes, and especially those who don't have any health insurance or a primary care provider. These are open to ROTC cadets, scouts, campers, Special Olympians, other people who need a pre-participation physical. And we are really appreciative of all the local clinicians who do this as volunteers, just on their own time for no money. Even though it's based at the Tallahassee Memorial Family Medicine Office, there will be other clinicians from other practices, Wakulla Medical, David Keene from Wakulla Urgent Care, Dr. Kessler is a regular volunteer, Dr. Charbonneau usually helps out. So we have it's a tremendous community service that our local clinicians and nurses and other professionals perform. And if you know any youngsters that need a physical, make sure they know about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next announcement?
Yeah, I'm going to sneak in two real quick.
All right, your next two announcements.
Right. I just want to make sure everybody knows next Thursday, the 17th, I believe, we're having a workshop on the master pedestrian and bike plan that John Schuff mentioned. This also includes waterways. So I encourage you to come and hear what's proposed for the county. And then the last announcement, this is kind of an annual event for me.
Springtime event. Late spring.
Early summer.
Early summer.
Jerry's favorite plant. All right. If you haven't been here when I've done this before, I'm asking this question for you. What is this? Who can tell me what plant this is?
I know.
It's a mimosa. All right. Is this a native plant? No. It has very pretty blooms. It used to be sold in nurseries, but it's now classified as an invasive exotic. It is very aggressive. It competes with native vegetation. And I became especially concerned about this plant when I did some volunteer work in the state park, pulling up thousands and thousands of these seedlings. And if you drive around now while the blooms are obvious, you can just see how pervasive they are in our county. So I encourage everybody, if you have one of these in your yard or street or whatever, please cut it down. And the sad fact is that cutting it down once is usually not enough. You usually need to cut it down 2, 3, 4 times till it eventually dies, or you can stump treat it with some chemicals. So please, it's taken over our county, and I encourage you to do your part to help eradicate it. Thank you.
And Commissioner Arts, I know you've volunteered in the past. If there's a citizen who would like to have one of these trees cut down, but may not be able to have the tools or the physical ability to cut it down, you'd be willing to volunteer to help find someone?
I volunteer. Nobody's ever taken me up on that, but I'll be there with my pruning saw, or I'll get cleave with a chainsaw or whatever. We'll take it down for you.
You did cut the one down by the corner of the board office right there in that palmetto bush, didn't you?
Is there one there? No. Maybe. Sure.
Cleve is always glad to help you.
We don't normally take questions from the crowd during these sections. We would normally take comments during citizens to be heard, which is a great transition to citizens to be heard will be at 6:30 at tonight's meeting. If you'd like to speak at citizens to be heard, make sure you filled out one of our cards. You have to fill out a card to speak. You'll be given 3 minutes and have the opportunity to address any issue that might be concerning you in the community. That is the opportunity for citizens to address us. We don't have discussion during citizens to be heard, but you can ask us questions, and during commissioner discussion items at the end of the meeting, we may choose to discuss them at that time. But your comments can be taken at Citizens to be Heard, which will happen around 6:30. Thank you. Next up on our agenda for this evening will be the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to planning and zoning items. First up this evening is an application for appeal to the Board of Adjustments, BOA 12-01. Louis Cerna is going to start that conversation for us. This is a quasi-judicial matter, and before Louis talks, our county attorney would like to have everyone answer some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you did say, you're sitting this is an appeal from a planning commission item, so you are sitting as the Board of Adjustment for this first item. In accordance with your code, any members, if you've had any contact from any interested parties or their representatives, lobbyists, or third parties concerning this item, now would be an appropriate time to disclose those.
I visited the site. I spoke with staff. That's it.
Commissioner Moore?
No.
I'm familiar with the site and discussed it with staff.
Talk to the property owner.
Okay. If there is anybody here who is going to provide any information on this application, please raise your hand. That includes the property owner if the property owner is going to talk. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Thank you.
Right hand, Mike. Right.
Louis?
Yes, Commissioners, this is an appeal of the Planning Commission item for setback variances for a lot in Ruby Hill subdivision. This went to the Planning Commission on March 12th. Staff at the time originally recommended approval of this based on the historical development pattern in Ruby Hills. The subdivision was originally designed and platted for multifamily residences. There are 4 units, 2 attached units in the subdivision. And there was also, directly across the street, a variance was granted similar to the variance that's being requested this evening. Just for clarification, from Shadeville Road, the setback from that road, from the right-of-way, is 20 feet. The applicant is requesting 14.3 feet. Ruby Lane, the setback is 25 feet, and the applicant meets that setback. The rear setback is 20 feet normally, and the applicant is requesting 16.67 feet. And then on the side interior setback, it's normally 8 feet, and the applicant is requesting 6.4 feet. Again, staff is recommending approval of this based on the other developments within the subdivision. This is the last undeveloped lot in the subdivision, and the applicant is available tonight to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll make a motion to conduct the final public hearing as the Board of Adjustments and exercise the powers granted by Section 323 of the Wakulla County Code and reverse the decision made by the Planning Commission based upon the findings of fact, conclusion of law made by the Board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any cards? Not for this one. Additional discussion from the board?
I have some questions for the planning director
Okay.
or staff. When we talked about this item, you were going to look into what the implications might be of reducing the setback from Shadeville in terms of if road widening, stormwater swales, sidewalks. Did you have a chance to look into that?
Yes, the right-of-way is 60 feet in that area. It is sufficient for widening and for sidewalks. If there was going to be significant widening, there would have to be much more right-of-way taken along this portion of Shadeville, including the house that's across the street from the subject property. So again, there is sufficient right-of-way there to do any improvements that are needed, we feel. So this variance would not impact that.
Okay, and you were also going to look at what these variances were on the house across the street?
Yep.
You know, the other one that is along Shadeville?
Yes, that one is, it was similar to this one. Again, it's, they requested 16 feet from Shadeville. What's being requested this evening is 14.3 feet from Shadeville.
Were they also closer to the neighboring house?
Let's see, it's the same requested setback, 6.4 feet.
And to the subdivision behind them, were they closer, and did they?
Slightly closer, 16 feet, and what's being requested this evening is 16.67 feet.
This is a problem in a lot of the historic, I know this is not a historic subdivision, but Wakulla Gardens, Magnolia Gardens, every corner lot, the side setback thing to me is a major, not a major, but it's an issue countywide that we really need to address at some point. The side setback, if you're on the lot right next to it, you can build 7 feet from the line. But if you happen to own the corner lot, you got to be, was it 25 feet on the corner side setback, Louis?
It's 20 feet.
20 feet. It goes from 7 feet to 20 feet here, and it really restricts the lot. And, you know, somebody could say, well, too bad for you. Well, the same variance was granted right across the road from this on the same subdivision. It's a corner lot, and I think the side setback that we have in our code right now is excessive, to be honest with you. Especially on, maybe we can make it different for smaller lots, but it almost makes the lot useless unless you request a variance. I know what I just spieled about a minute ago, but I know the Planning Commission turned this down, but staff agrees that it should be granted, and I think it should be granted too.
Well, one concern I have is about the owner of the house next door, who may, has a home expecting that they're going to have so much side yard on each side of their house, and now they aren't. And, that makes me a little uncomfortable. I guess I have a question for the builder. If
Michael
that's
Pafford
okay.
has turned in a card. Mr. Pafford?
Michael Pafford, 507 East Ivan Road.
So when you purchased this, you knew what the setbacks were?
Correct.
And
actually, in 2010, I was granted, and I have a permit and everything, to build a bigger house than what I'm building now, which the setbacks would have been smaller than what I'm building now. I downsized the house to build this house on there. But in 2010, I could have built a bigger house on that same lot that already had a permit, approved, plans were already, everything was ready to go. But I at that time, it wasn't feasible. I was building other places, but like I said, and I've actually downsized this house than what it was originally approved for.
And if you were to further downsize it so it fit in the within required setbacks, what problems would that create?
I mean, you couldn't do nothing with it besides build a 2 or 3 story house and be out of place right there by Shadeville Road to make everything flow with the rest of the neighborhood. And like I said, I built one across the street with the same exact size lot and everything that was approved. I got them both approved at the same time in 2010. I went ahead and built that one, and since then I've actually made a smaller house to go on the one across the street.
And how many square feet is the house that you're proposing, and how many would it have to be to fit in this?
It's 1273. I mean, it's not worth building nothing any smaller than that these days because you can't sell it. You'd have to downsize to a 2-bedroom or something, and it's really not feasible. But I mean, I built one across the street, and everything was approved on both lots in 2010. I just didn't build it in 2010, and now I'm actually projecting, doing a smaller house to build on this lot. It's the last lot I had in the subdivision. I built 20 plus houses in there.
Commissioner Stewart?
Louis, has any of the adjoining abutting landowners complained of this?
No, we haven't had any complaints. We did have, the adjacent owner did come to the meeting, but, the planning commission meeting, but did not speak, and, she's not spoken with staff either or submitted anything in writing.
Mike, has anybody said anything to you about it?
Not a word. It's pretty much her parking lot right now. The lady next door is probably the only reason why she came to the last meeting. But she's never said anything negative to me about it.
I think you're just taking 2 feet. How many feet are you encroaching into that?
I think it's 6 point something, and the actual setback is 8.
Yeah, it's
So it's a
actually
foot.
less than 2 feet.
Yeah.
So that's,
And then since it was approved, we actually don't have to worry about the overhangs anymore now. That's taken out. So if anything, it'd been better than what it was in 2010 when it was approved.
Is that from the overhangs now, Mike, or from the footer?
No, it's from the footer. It's not from the overhangs.
Any additional
I
discussion?
mean, Lynn, to what your point is a good point, is that if the neighbors haven't complained, I mean, it's been, the big yellow sign's been posted there, they know it's coming, they've been to the meeting, no negative comments about it.
She knew it was going to be built in 2010. She asked me, can I wait till we was going to do it like in probably March or April, and she asked me, can I wait till after September, because she wanted to have her wedding there and have a little bit more, and I said that was fine. But, I waited to do it then, but I actually never did it at the time when we did it. But she's never had a problem concerned to me about it. She's never said nothing to me about it.
I knew she came to the planning commission, and then the planning commission voted to not approve it, so, she
A lot
might
of
have
it
thought
probably had
that
to
would
do with-
stay. I don't
Like I said,
know.
I didn't show up because I thought it was the following day, so they act like I didn't have any concern about it, kind of.
Okay. Any further discussion?
so smart.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. Up next this evening is item number 11, which is an application for change of zoning, R12-02. It's another legal matter, so our county attorney will be leading the conversation for us, and then we'll pass it over to Louis Cerna.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is actually the second public hearing on this matter. You had the first one, I guess, at the first meeting in April, and no vote was taken. This is the second time you'll hear this matter. In accordance with Section 24.01 of your code, if you have had any contact from the developer or lobbyists or any other interested parties about this matter, you should disclose them now for the record.
I had an informal agreement with Mr. Boynton that was not financial on using the property for signs. But I've since renounced that.
I had been to the property a while back and haven't had any recent communications related to this.
No new outreach.
No.
Nothing's changed.
Okay. If there is anyone here who is going to speak on this matter, please raise your hand to be sworn in. Mr. Boynton, going to speak up?
Yeah, just raise the right hand for it.
Hold on. Do you swear?
We haven't called you up yet, sir. We haven't called you up yet. We gotta still do the swearing in. We'll get the chance in a few minutes.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cerna?
Yes, again, Commissioners, this is the second time you've heard this. This is for the final approval of the rezoning from Ag and RR5 to RR2. The Planning Commission on March 12th unanimously voted to recommend approval, and staff is also recommending approval of this rezoning.
Is there a motion?
Motion to conduct the final public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending the official zoning map. I need to read the whole thing? It's a long one. Official zoning from Ag to and RR5 zoning district to RR2 zoning district based upon recognition of the Planning Commission and finds the fact and conclusion of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon and adopting the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Boynton has filed a card indicating he'd like to speak on the next two, but not indicating he'd like to speak on this one. Would you like to speak on this one, sir?
I would just like to say, apologize for being brain dead. I didn't even realize this was mine. But if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Okay, thank you.
Good comments.
Any additional discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Item number 12, application for final plat, FP 12-01, another judicial matter, so our county attorney will be swearing us again.
Yeah, and this is a related, it's a plat for the same property that you just had a rezoning on. Unless there are additional ex parte disclosures, we will just ensure that the ones you had previously apply to this one as well.
I talked to staff about this one. I didn't so much because we'd already heard the other one.
Okay. If there is anyone else who has not already been sworn in who wishes to speak on this one, please indicate to me. If not, you're still sworn. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioners, this is for a replat. There were 5 existing lots on the property, all approximately 5 acres. This replat would reconfigure those and make them 2-acre lots consistent with the rezoning that you just approved. And again, staff is recommending approval of this and are available for any questions that you might have.
I'll move that we conduct the final public hearing and approve the application for final plat LP 12-01 based upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
And accept the staff report.
And accept the staff report.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there additional discussion from the board?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Yeah. When we made the agreement with Mr. Boynton to reconfigure this special planning area so that some of what was supposed to be natural area became the property of the Heritage Village. And we also at that time agreed that the remaining natural area no longer had to be set aside in a separate conservation area, but could actually be included in the lots. And that was a huge change. My own concern then was that if you put conservation area into private landowners' lots, that it's not going to, that its chances of being conserved are reduced. And I know we've had incidents of people just clearing what they think is their backyard, which was supposed to be preserved as native vegetation. But even in those discussions, my understanding was that we were talking about putting, like maybe the part of the backyard into conservation. And if you look at these maps, I'm very concerned about having the natural areas running down the lot lines because, I mean, first of all, it's really narrowing. It's creating more borders to your natural areas. And then if your natural areas were all grouped together. And now, I understand wildlife habitat's not an issue for this conservation area. If it was, then that would be even more argument for wanting to have it kind of as a corridor or contiguous. But even with nitrogen pollution, if what you're trying to do is reduce it, the more edges you have to your natural area, the greater the chances, I think, when people are out fertilizing their grass, that fertilizer is going to end up in the natural area, which isn't supposed to be happening. Also, I think the reality is all those natural areas between the lot lines are going to end up not natural. People are going to build fences, they're going to plant or mow or do whatever right to their lot lines. They aren't going to run fences. What is the width of that? How many feet is that, Louis?
They're 15 feet on either lot, so it's a total width of 30 feet.
Yeah.
For the narrow ones.
Yeah. People just running it down the sides like that, I would much rather see it like along the back of each property. And then it would run from the natural area where the curve is next to the Heritage Village, and it could run along the back of those 4 lots, forget about what's in between them, and just set up a wider swath of natural area across the back of all of them. And I think it would be, clear to anybody who's concerned about knowing where the boundaries are. It reduces the edges, which is, if you want to have the greatest benefit from your natural areas, you don't want all the edges. So I'm sorry this is what's come forward. I really was hoping for a very different approach to natural areas within the lots.
Ms. Boynton, would you like to address the concern?
Ben Boynton, Tallahassee. First of all, I do present an argument with what Commissioner Arts is saying. The purpose of natural state is for nitrogen uptake, and what you want to do is have root exposure to the fertilizers. The intent of it is to take the nitrogen out of the soils, out of the fertilizers, and let the trees take them up instead of it going into the sink structure. That's the whole purpose of it. That's the whole reason why we did all of this. So the argument that I had with DCA when they first started doing this, they wanted to have all of the natural state area in one block, one area. I said, well, what good does that do? You're opening up yards for fertilization that's going to go right into the sinks. Nitrogen's going to go straight down into the infrastructure. Why don't you take these root systems and spread them out through the whole subdivision? Well, that's a great idea, Mr. Boynton. I think that's a great idea. So why don't you do that? So anyway, that's what I had to deal with, educating them. I spent $30,000 on a nitrate study for their benefit. But we all came to the conclusion that that's the way to do it. So I also would like to add that on this particular subdivision, I had initially done 5 acres with no natural state area. I was putting the natural state in the parent tract of 133 acres. And since we've gone to DCA and got, which is now a DOE, I think that's the name of the organization, that have given me a consent to do the natural state within the lots that we've talked about for over a year now. I think that going back and including natural state in these lots, that is very consistent with what I'm doing and bringing in front of you with the PUD and preliminary plat of Scenic Stream, which you'll see next board meeting in June. You'll see that I have taken the natural state and interspersed it throughout the entire subdivision for the purpose of the maximum amount of nitrate uptake into the trees. Any questions?
Do you have any, Commissioner Arts also expressed a concern that the space between the lots is hard to enforce, that she's afraid that the property owners might come in and just clear cut. Do you have any way of helping that you plan to encourage people to leave that space natural?
I'm going to defer that to Mr. Cerner, but what we've done is we've created documents, the covenants and restrictions, and we also have a natural state conservation easement document that's been created for this that talks about what can and cannot happen within those boundaries that we're talking about, and they're identified on the plat. And I did it for consistency's sake. I made them the same width all the way through so that people that are selling the lots can have one verbiage. They don't have to worry about going in there and saying, this is 20 feet, this is 15, this is 10, this is 5. So the intent is to be consistent throughout the whole subdivision.
Louis, in the preliminary plat, we talked about the easement being in favor of the county on the conservation easement. Is that the case here? Or is the easement in favor of the...
we're looking at that. It's either the homeowners or the county.
Okay, I remember I specifically had brought that up about the easement being in favor of the county, and I don't know, I can't read the dedication.
Actually, what it is it's in the favor of the homeowners association, but the enforcement of the county. So the homeowners association is responsible for it, but if the county finds a homeowners association is not doing the job, the county has the right to go in and enforce it.
That language is in the dedication on the plat?
It's not on the dedication plat, but it's on the covenants, and it's also on the easement.
The easement is referenced in the plat.
Yeah, we do have the easement on
You
the
can't
covenant
read it, it's
document.
hard to read on the...
I saw it, but
Yeah.
I saw utility easements. It's hard to, like I said, because it's a scan.
If you look through the bottom of the easement, you'll see that it defers to the county at the bottom,
Or to the homeowners.
toward the bottom of the easement.
Commissioner Moore had a question?
Mr. Boynton, have you met all the requirements of the county?
I have.
Then basically, this is sort of a discussion after the fact, because the county has approved this, and it's up to us to either do an up or down vote.
Well, final plats are designed to be approved upon the completion of the infrastructure. Once you do a preliminary plat, you've told the developer, okay, we agree, you go to the infrastructure. When you come in and you confirm that you've done the infrastructure, then we do an upvote. It's an upvote, because you basically have said you've complied with the county.
I'm sorry.
That's what this is a final plat. This is not a preliminary plat, this is a final plat.
Final plat also says that you've complied with the...
That's correct.
With the preliminary plat, you said you were going to build, and does this do that?
It does.
Commissioner Merritt, it is to the homeowners association enforceable by the county.
Because I know a couple specific examples. I can't remember them. So I think whatever farm or whatever. But anyway, they had an easement along, and they went and cleared it because it's in their backyard. And the adjoining property owner complained, and there was nothing the county could do about it because it had no enforcement. But Heather, in this case, we do have enforcement of that easement. And this is, to me, this is more of a privacy easement than really anything else.
It's not, it is a privacy easement, but it's designed as a natural state easement.
I understand, but if the county has, if the neighbor complained, the county could go in and enforce that easement now?
That is
Yes,
how it's
yes.
structured, yes. I don't have it.
That's all I was asking about, because I know we've run into it in the past.
And we did a special easement document that parallels the covenants, because the covenants have a 20-year lifespan. This does not. This goes in perpetuity.
It goes with the deed, then?
It does.
Well, I know in my conversations with staff when we were talking about this design and being very surprised that the planning department recommended it, the point was made, you could have come in with lots of little islands, little circles, kind of piecemeal through. That would have even increased your borders more and, would even fit with your theory. It's just it would be even harder to enforce. But we wouldn't approve that, and I don't see this as a whole lot better than that, because, is Jamie going to be coming in and measuring all the way along the lot lines and whatever if there's an issue? It's difficult to
Is this not what
to
we're
know
on
this.
preliminary plat?
I don't remember seeing this.
Yeah, this one did not go through preliminary plat. It was, we had a final plat already approved for a different configuration, and then this is coming through as a replat. The special area plan requirements were changed where you can do the natural state areas as a part of the lot, so that's sort of how we got to where we are without a preliminary plat for this configuration.
So there was no preliminary plat?
Not for this
Not of this.
configuration.
Not recently. Mr. Boyan?
I want to reiterate that on the preliminary plat that we had done prior, we had no natural state area within the confines. So now this is more restrictive, so I don't anticipate that there would have been any concerns on this.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. The next agenda item we have today is item 13, application for final plat FP 12-02. Will be led by Louis Cerna. But first up, we get to hear from Heather Encinosa, our county attorney, who will be checking to see if anybody else has spoken to anybody else.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a final plat concerning Old Bremner Place Phase 2 for Ann Boynton Investments. In accordance with Section 24.01, if any of you have had any ex parte discussions about this matter, please disclose them for the record.
I spoke with staff. Oh, and I talked to Mr. Boynton briefly at the beginning of the meeting.
I have nothing on this property.
Very familiar with the property, but have not spoken to anyone on it. No.
Okay, is there anyone here who will be providing any information or testimony on this application? Please raise your hand to be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Cerna?
Commissioners, yes, this is for final plat approval for 5 lots. This is a 26.32 acre site located on the west side of Old Bethel Road across from the Windsong subdivision. This went to the Planning Commission on April 9th, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this. Staff is also recommending approval. You have the final plat document in your package, and it should be on the screen, and we're available to answer any questions. And Mr. Boynton is also here as well.
I'll make a motion to conduct the final public hearing and approve the application for final plat FP 1202 and the acceptance of the bond based upon recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings of facts included all made by the board and events submitted at the hearing hereon, and set staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion from the board?
And you have to go in and pave Old Bremner Road now. I know you've already built a couple houses in there on the other lots, right?
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you all. We're moving on to general business. I want to remind people that if you'd like to speak at 6:30 on Citizens to be Heard, make sure you fill out a card in advance. The card can be obtained up here from Katie. You'll be allotted 3 minutes to speak if you have filled out a card. The first item of general business this evening is a request board to approve and schedule a workshop to discuss the Wakulla County Airport. Mr. Tim Barden is listed as the person, I guess.
He is. He's in Fort Walton Beach.
So Mr. Edwards?
So that would be me. This workshop would be an opportunity for the board and the Wakulla citizens to review the airport master plan. What we basically we need to approve or set a workshop for the airport committee to come back to the board to give us an update as to where they stand. And this, we'd like to have approval to schedule that workshop regarding the airport master plan, as there's been many questions on it.
I move to schedule a workshop on the airport master plan. Do you have a recommended date in mind?
Tim had not set a date, and he was trying to get that with the other members, and he was unable to do that that I'm aware of, unless you have some other information.
No. They were trying to figure out a date for a joint workshop between the two entities, and I don't think it...
Right. It couldn't kind of boil down, so therefore we...
Can we just go ahead and approve, and you can just tell us when to be there?
Yeah.
We have a workshop every Thursday.
We can do that.
Anyways. Second.
We have a motion, a second. We have 2 citizens who have come to address this issue. Mr. James Parham.
Thank you. My name is Jim Parham, 2519 Surf Road. I'm here on behalf of Ochlockonee Bay Alliance, and that we have been the neighborhood group that have been pretty much opposed to any expansion of the airport. We welcome this workshop. This whole airport issue has never been fully publicly vetted. It has been moved forward in an incremental manner that has not fully consider the comprehensive impact of it, and so we welcome this. And in the meantime, before the workshop happens, I would like for y'all just to think about one thing. This cloud of this reversion rights that hangs over, that keeps us moving in fear of this reversion rights, is fundamentally flawed. There is no way that an airport can remain public on the land that Fenton Jones deeded. He deeded a piece of land that's too small to accommodate a publicly licensed airport. So think about any kind of a document, any kind of clause in any kind of conveyance, where in order for you to remain operative, that you are forced to go buy other property. I am sure it would invite litigation, but just think about that between now and the workshop, that this entire reverter clause that's hanging over us and causing us to run down different directions is just fundamentally flawed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Anderson?
My name's Bill Anderson. I live at 2481 Surf Road. Like Jim, I would also support the workshop idea. But in addition to that, point out to the Commission that you've appointed a 7-member airport committee, which was mentioned when the workshop was called for. And you've appointed 7 people to the committee, all of which have a vested interest in expanding the airport. They're all residents of Tar Pine, which own the airport, and also the developer, which owns the land right outside the airport that is going to sell it to the county. Those are the only citizens that you've appointed to this airport committee. All of the other homes which are around the airport, which are being drastically affected by this, you have no representation on the committee or to give you input as to how they feel. Their homes are being substantially impacted. The tax base is going to go down substantially, which is going to affect the county, and yet they have no representation. On the main issue of whether the airport should be expanded, the minutes on your website, the BoCC website, says that the airport has less than 5% utilization of its present capacity. The only people that use it are the Tar Pines residents, which basically have 15 or fewer planes. And yet you're thinking about expanding it at a cost of greater than $3 million when there are roads in this city that cannot be paved, sewers which cannot be put in because you don't have money, and yet the priority, you're thinking about spending over $3 million to basically affect positively 15 people and detrimentally affect all those other residents that live around it. I ask you to seriously consider your priorities. Thank you.
No one has ever said spend tax dollars, $3 million at the airport.
We can't get into a dialogue.
Sir, whether it's federal money, county money, or state money, it's a waste of money.
You are we're not doing sewer, and we're spending on the airport. That's not. It's not.
Mr. Anderson, we can't get out tonight. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Additional discussion from our board? When are we looking to have the workshop?
It looks like we have a workshop scheduled for the 7th of June. That was a workshop day that we have scheduled. That's a possibility. You see, I would schedule it ask to schedule it for the 24th, but that's we all might have issues with that, seeing that we have a trial in Panama City. So the 31st is right before Memorial Day or during the Memorial Day break. So
I think. Do we have a budget workshop?
We got a budget workshop. We could always move the budget workshop if possible.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't have. We just have that slot. It's slotted, but we can move that.
Do you have anything scheduled on the 7th?
I can't do it on the 7th.
There's no. Okay.
Okay.
I can't do it on the 7th. I want to be here, and we need to have at least 2 hours for that workshop.
How about the 31st
of May?
Of May.
What day is that on? Thursday.
A Thursday.
I can't do it.
No, but that's fine.
I won't be here.
We have to have it
You
on
can have it
Thursday.
without me then.
Well,
What are the workshops we have next week on the 17th?
we have 2 workshops. One is the Public Works as well as the bike pad plan. That's pretty full.
Yeah, we already had 2 hours of workshops on that day.
We already had 2 hours?
Yeah.
2 workshops, about an hour each. So this would be a third.
And the 24th, we can't do it because of trial?
Yeah, that's we're taking a chance that, we may have to be, some of us may have to be there. I mean, it's a chance it could be done by then, but also a chance it couldn't be, so.
If we have on the 17th, if we have 2 workshops, we're already here. Why don't we just throw a third one in and spend a little more time? We're already here.
We could do that.
I'll do it.
I could come at 4. That's another hour.
Okay, so starting the workshops at 4 o'clock, anticipating going until 8 o'clock.
Okay. We can go and get it done the 17th, that'd be good.
We can start the next workshop, though, as soon as one's done.
That's right.
As one ends, none to exceed, and we're allocating up to 2 hours for the airport workshop.
And is it going to be the first one?
We'll have to set that up. We got to look at everything. We'll send that and we'll let you know in the public announcement with the rotation of them.
So we have a motion and a second. The 17th.
I make a motion, we do it on the 17th.
I think we have the motion and a second, and now the date's been added in. We're good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will see you there. Thank you. Again, because I know there's people who I think are arriving to speak for citizens to be heard at 6:30. Make sure you fill out a card in advance if you'd like to speak at 6:30 for citizens to be heard. If you don't fill out a card, you will not have the opportunity to address the commission. Item 14, request board acceptance of the legislative update report. Again, Timothy Barden, which we're going to again say David Edwards.
I'm sorry about that. Do
you want to table that to the next meeting?
Yeah, table that to the next meeting.
I was going to table that to the next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor of tabling to the next meeting?
Aye.
All right. We will have that at the next meeting. Item 15, request board approval of a resolution appointing members to the Wakulla County Community Center Advisory Committee that is to be led by Jessica Welch.
This is the Community Center Advisory Committee appointing the members that are in your packet. You've already approved the ordinance creating the committee.
Make a motion
I
to approve
moved.
the resolution. I'm sorry, Ms. Arts, go ahead. This is yours.
Okay, I move to approve the resolution establishing and appointing members to the Community Center Advisory Committee.
Second.
Hold on.
I think we have to make
We
a couple
need
decisions.
to add some with the following names.
We have to pick professional experience in fundraising, grant writing, or resource development, and we have to pick sports and recreation.
Well, for 3 of the categories, we only have one person
So it's just
named.
sports and rec we have to choose.
Right.
And it's Simon Nelson versus Jim Tart. Is there a preference?
I'm not, whatever's,
I know
if other
Mr.
people have strong opinions.
I know Mr. Tarp. I don't know the other gentleman. I'm sure he's well qualified, but Mr. Tarp is just the status of athletics and so forth, so my preference would be Mr. Tarp.
I feel good about both of them, but I think my impression is that Jim Tart may be better known.
That's fine with me.
I think they're both well known. They're both really awesome people.
Yes.
But Jim Tart's the motion. This is how I hear it. All right, we have a motion and a second.
I had asked for Simon Nelson.
Oh.
Because he's a minority, number one, well known in the community, well known in the school because he's assistant principal there, and serves on the Park and Recreation Board. That's a person I asked to be on there. I mean, he would be an outstanding, when I appointed him, I didn't know that Mr. Tart was going to put it, have his name submitted, but so I can support either one of them. If that's the majority, I don't have a problem with Tart. If we can could Nelson serve in another capacity? Is there another one that's empty? No. Yeah, that's.
No, that.
Yes. Bill and mine. But I'm fine. I can support either one. I'm not going to argue about. I think both are well qualified. And if the majority wants Tart, then that's who we'll go with.
Now, the school board appoints someone, and, they nominated or selected Luis Hernandez. I know nothing about him, so, I mean...
Louis is a good guy. Yeah.
Young man who would do well on it.
Do we have any minorities on any of these committees?
Ms. Rozier is representing South Choppy. That's a 1-year term. And I don't know Kim Franklin.
No, he's,
If Ms. Roser is representing Sopchoppy in a one-year term,
Well, we can, so would you rather have, I mean, it's up to discussion. I think does
Mr. Nelson coach, or does he have an,
he is a coach. And he's coming, he was the person who approached us earlier this year about Rec Park needing more money. He came and spoke at our meeting, speaking on behalf of raising money for the Rec Park.
He's an outspoken
I know who,
for youth, I can tell you that. I mean, he coaches basketball. He does a special camp in the summer for basketball. He does a lot of neat things for kids.
Mike,
Either one would be qualified.
I'll vote with you on Mr. Nelson.
that's fine.
Fine with me, too.
I mean, as I said,
Either
they're
one,
both
either
really
one.
awesome people. I'm good with either. So Mr. Nelson being the
That's fine.
okay.
And then, the other three filling the other spots.
Okay. And, all right then. And we thank two-time national football champion Jim Tart, college football champion, for submitting his name. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Before,
Passed unanimously.
before we go on, I would like some clarification from the board. This is the resolution appointing the committee. Earlier, we approved an ordinance, and I had, distributed this. Does this look familiar? And that people had agreed, I thought, that that's what we would do. And this, my proposed revisions to the ordinance did two things. First, they changed the length of the initial term for several of the different positions. And then you see the asterisk. I also proposed that after the initial term, the ordinance calls for these to be 4-year positions. But I had proposed that 3 of them be yearly. One, because it's a high school student, and I thought, to have the one for 4 years didn't make much sense. Also, for the Sopchoppy and St. Mark's, to have to sit out for 4 years till you had your turn, you wouldn't be really up to date and involved. So I liked alternating them annually, and then the faith-based, because I thought there were so many churches that might want to be involved. So that the proposal that I made to change the ordinance included both of those aspects. And I think Evelyn's minutes reflect that fairly well. It says, with changes incorporated as to term limits for some of the appointees. But what ended up happening is that the final ordinance that was filed only rearranged the initial terms. It didn't change those 3 to 1-year terms. So my question is, were you all in support of the 1-year terms, and do we want to go make that change when time permits?
I think that's a good idea, what you have there.
And as I recall it, I think the Commissioner Merritt just accepted your proposal without much discussion.
Okay.
Went with it, so.
Okay, well then, it could happen any time over the next year till that first 1-year terms are over, but then I guess do I need a second motion to direct that the ordinance be revised?
Go through the whole amendments public hearing process again to make that.
Okay.
All right. Not costing you extra, though, right?
It's going to cost you money to re-advertise it, yes.
Which, that's $17.
I don't know.
It needs to be done.
Okay, so I move that we revise the ordinance within the next 6 months or so to reflect the proposal that was originally presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last agenda item under general business, before we'll be getting to citizens to be heard. And again, at citizens to be heard, make sure you fill out a card if you'd like to talk tonight.
Commissioner agenda items, if it's not 6:30.
if it is commissioned,
Cleve, before you came in, Ms. Arts volunteered you to help her remove mimosa.
No problem.
This agenda item is request board approval of a resolution accepting utility easement for construction of the Met-Out lift station.
Make a motion to approve the resolution accepting the utility easement for the Mid-Arc lift station. Cleve, I don't think you can say that.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good speech, Cleve.
It passes unanimously. We are going to try and wait to 6:30, so we're going to hit Commissioner Arts' first item, partnering on a grant application to protect Wakulla Springs.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I thought I had submitted the final version, but you actually got a draft version. And so you now have a hard copy of the final version. Okay. And I want to give you a little bit of background first. The Thousand Friends of Florida actually held a day-and-a-half workshop in 2009. Go ahead and take one of those and pass them down. I know Chairman Kessler attended, then Chairman Kessler, current Chairman Brock attended, I attended. I think George Green might have even been there for a while. It was a day-and-a-half workshop with leadership from the City of Tallahassee, Leon County, and Wakulla County, and at the end we signed this memorandum of understanding. And we basically agreed that we were going to work cooperatively to try and find ways to limit nutrient pollution inputs within the Wakulla spring shed. Now, I signed it even though Chairman Kessler, Howard Kessler was the chairman at the time. I think he had left by this point or had a conflict, and so that's why I signed it. But anyway, it was an agreement that these three jurisdictions would work together. And I'm not sure, we did fund the feasibility study, and we haven't done much more than that. But the Thousand Friends of Florida is, I think, proposing to build on that and plans to submit a grant that would look at the two major sources of nutrient pollution that is in the Wakulla spring shed, and particularly the Woodville Karst Plain, septic systems and fertilizers. And they want all three of those same jurisdictions to agree to collaborate on this project. And they're also seeking other major stakeholders such as the Northwest Florida Water Management District, the Florida Geologic Survey, the Florida Department of Health, the Friends of Wakulla Springs State Park, FSU, the Wakulla Springs Alliance, or the Hydrogeology Consortium at a minimum. Anyway, they are going to look at trying to look at different ways to address this pollution and try to reach a consensus. We've talked, we're downstream, and we all recognize that a lot of the pollution is coming from Leon County and City of Tallahassee also. So, and they hope to look at what we can do more regionally and try to build some consensus about maybe what local governments could do, and we'll move forward on doing. So the grant is due May 25th. They will be the grant applicant, so we're not under any financial obligation or liability. Obviously, they want our involvement and the involvement of Tallahassee and Leon County for this to be successful, and they're looking for a letter of support from us.
When you say our involvement, does that mean money?
No. Now, the grant will require a 40% match, which can be made through in-kind contributions, and some groups, like the Friends of Wakulla Springs State Park, are stepping up to provide some money. So I don't think we definitely aren't going to be expected to make any kind of a cash contribution. Maybe we could host a meeting or whatever as an in-kind contribution. So I'm moving that we agree to collaborate with the Thousand Friends of Florida and the other stakeholders on this grant application to address the management of dispersed sources of nutrient pollution within the Wakulla Springs shed. Also, that we direct Wakulla County grant personnel to assist in writing or at least reviewing the grant application, and I've spoken with Ms. Keeler and she's willing to do that. Third, to direct the Wakulla Department of Health to assist with grant preparation, and Pat is willing to be involved whether we approve it or not. And lastly, for Wakulla County staff to draft and authorize the chairman to sign a letter of support for the grant application. And here is a draft letter that was sent to the city of Tallahassee as a model of what they could submit. So it wouldn't even take much work.
I would second it if, with the caveat, we don't spend any taxpayer dollars on any match for this grant. And I assume by dispersed sources of nitrogen that really means septic tanks.
And fertilizer.
Okay.
Those are the two things they're targeting.
What I wouldn't want to see, and I know you're not running against, you're not going to be here when it probably comes back, but I don't want to see, hey, you guys need to have a septic maintenance entity. I don't like that idea, and if the purpose of this grant is to do a study to tell us we need a septic maintenance entity, to me it's a waste of my time.
Randy, that's exactly why I'm not going to vote for it, because I don't know what, I think we got enough rules and regulations that we're working with under the water and especially Wakulla Springs.
If it's something that addresses best management practices for fertilizer, maybe educating people, maybe use slow release fertilizer or whatever, that's fine. I know that does affect the springs, but I don't want to spend any tax dollars on it or spend a lot of staff time, a little bit maybe. But if it's just to come back and have a report saying you need a septic maintenance entity, then...
Well, it's not. If you look at the primary objectives, I think one is that what they probably will look at the operational costs of different approaches, including management entities. But the key for me is working with stakeholders to develop consensus on mutually agreed upon ways to address nutrient pollution management within the Wakulla Springs Basin. And I think especially because we're the ones who are going to suffer the greatest with further degradation of Wakulla Springs, we need to be urging our neighbors to the north to do some things.
Well, the number one goal of this grant is to identify and analyze the operational costs of possible management entity options. That's goal one. And goal two was the other goal you talked about, was work with stakeholders.
Develop a consensus.
So if this is to come tell us that we need a septic management, Pat, I don't know if you have any input on this, or I don't want to seem like I'm flying alone here, but I appreciate, I don't know if it could necessarily do any harm, but
I think it's good
if
for
we're
us
not
to-
going to spend any tax dollars on it.
I think it's good for us to see what's being moved forward. I think it's good for us to continue to move forward in a good faith effort. I mean, again, if we want, the big part of what we have to do as a community is get Tallahassee to step up. Leon County, especially in South Leon County, and the effort they're making. And I think that we have to participate. Even as we've changed our septic tank ordinance, we're still worried about, this
Like
is
I
all
said,
part of the same thing.
If we're not spending any tax dollars money on it, or spending staff time on it, if there's just a couple little things here or there, Pad wants to do it, that's his business. I don't have a problem with it, as long as we're not spending tax dollars on it.
Okay, well, there's no commitment that will provide any kind of a cash match, and it sounds like even our in-kind match needs to be minimal.
It does say the county may be asked to contribute its fair share. So whoever's doing the grant, we ain't paying them.
Okay.
Any share.
I agree with Randy. Somewhere in the last couple of weeks, somebody sent me an email about Wakulla County contributes 0.79 of 1% of the nitrogen to Wakulla Springs. 0.79 of 1%. We don't even contribute 1%, maybe 3/4 of 1%. There's so many more issues that would be critical, helping families in need, service people, and we spend 90% of our time talking about 0.79 of 1%. And when I approve this grant or whatever, those things take on a life of their own. All of a sudden, you've got consultants coming down telling us what we want to do, what we ought to do, and how we should do it, and it just takes on its own life. So I'm going to vote against it.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion from Commissioner Arks and a second from Commissioner Merritt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes 4-1.
Thank you.
It is now 6:30, which brings us to the time for citizens to be heard. If you've not filled out a card, make sure you get one in. Here. So we need you to turn in a card to have the opportunity to speak at Citizens to be Heard. Each person, as I call your name, will get 3 minutes to talk, and we will be keeping time. The first citizen to be heard this evening is going to be Jamal Dickens. And again, just as a clarification, because I know there's some new faces coming to speak tonight, citizens can feel free to address us. We're not supposed to respond back. There will be conversation at the end of the meeting for commissioner discussion, and that would be the opportunity for us to talk. But we will not be addressing any of your concerns at this time, but we would like to hear them.
Okay. Thank you, first of all. I missed the discussion, if there was some, about Wakulla Gardens. I am a resident of Wakulla Gardens. I've been there for 2 years now, and I rushed down here from work to get here to, I guess, at least state my claim. My wife and I moved to Wakulla Gardens with the understanding of it being dirt, and we were kind of given the assumption that soon, I didn't know how soon, we would, move into this paved, or it would become paved and various things like that. But I'm just looking at just overall, are there any solutions as far as maybe CO2 agents that could be placed on the road, or any other water trucks or things like that could be placed on the road? It's kind of frustrating because, like I said, I've been in Wakulla Gardens for 2 years. There are other residents who've been there for longer who still are going on this promise, or going on this, I'll say promise that, oh, your roads are going to get done, but yet there are other roads in the county that are still getting done, when yet we're taxpayers, we're paying our taxes, we're also paying our mortgages, and we deserve to be able to live a dust-free life, or to be able to just go outside our homes without, having the potential of developing pneumonia in a couple of days, or our cars being white just from the dust, or from the cloud of dust that, flows through the area. So I sent an email, I don't know if it was to the board. I have J. Welch, C. Fleming, B. Pell, T. Barden, and D. DeBose. Now this was in April 2011. I sent an email, and I actually did get a phone call back. I don't remember exactly which one. And we talked for about 30 minutes, and he explained the whole thing about the sewage and how that had to be done first. And I'm kind of feeling like, as a resident, as a taxpayer in Wakulla County, that's an empty promise. I think it's a thing of, you're using that as, well, we have to get that done first before anything can get done. And now we're in 2012 and nothing's still being done. Like I said, I'm coming forward representing for my neighborhood, and I'm assuming that there are other residents here as well, asking, is there something that can be done? I'm sure you all know about the WCTV telecast that was just on 3-4 weeks ago that showed us in this terrible light, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to have to explain that I lived in that neighborhood. As a taxpayer in Wakulla County, I lived in that neighborhood with all that dust terribly like that. And I honestly think it's time for something to be done. I'm stepping forward and asking, is there something that we can do? Is there something that you can do to help us with this situation? Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Ms. Tammy Hornbaker.
some of you may be familiar with my name. I've been sending a lot of emails recently. We live at 48 Mohawk in Wakulla Gardens, and I wrote it out. I'm nervous, so I'm going to read. We're here tonight to begin the process of introducing the people of Wakulla Gardens to you and allow you to see our faces. We realize that the budget for Wakulla County is very tight, and we're asking you to begin to think creatively. So tonight we are asking for you to consider researching a dust calming solution to use on a road, similar to what he was talking about. We appreciate the effort that was made on the roads to stabilize them in rainy weather, but the dust it has created is becoming unbearable and unlivable. Each family in the gardens have a story to tell, and the majority of them include illnesses and respiratory difficulties that did not exist prior to the limestone being put down. And the past week, I have been walking up and down these streets of Wakulla Garden, and we have obtained, with other people have helped me, 96 signatures of people who are now very concerned about this. And like I said, each one of them had an illness story to tell me. And it cannot be coincidence that everybody is coming down sick, even me, and I'm healthy. I'm having trouble breathing. We are also requesting increased police presence. There is an astounding number of break-ins and thefts in just our part of the gardens. We have late night and early morning traffic, tow trucks from Tallahassee that come and cruise around and then leave, and this leads to a suspicion of drug dealing. We have speeders, including the school buses, that do not consider the dust and the mess they are creating. And the school bus drivers are getting aggressive to the point that they are stopping their buses and they are telling us, you cannot tell us to slow down, we are going 25. And they may be going 25, but you can't see the bus because of the dust. The speed limit is too high for the roads and the conditions that we currently have. Several of us, including myself, have been threatened by vehicles when we were out walking or jogging. Last week, I was in a neighbor's yard speaking to her, and we heard a truck roaring up the road, so we went to the edge of the yard to flag him to slow down. He flipped us off, got to the end of the road, did a rock and dust flying U-turn, and came back at us. We could not get his license plate because of the dust. We are asking what we need to do to be put on the agenda for the next meeting, or whatever we need to do to have a conversation with you and with the residents. We are very interested in learning about more of the issues and how to solve them. We feel that the commissioners consider us to be low-income, uneducated residents, and we need to change your perception of us. Thank you for your time and your emails and visits recently. Mr. Brock came out to my yard. They are not unnoticed, and they are very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jennifer Carter?
Here also about Wakulla Gardens.
Would you speak into the microphone?
Sorry. I've had a house in Wakulla Gardens for 13 years. In that 13 years, the county's talked about paving and putting in drainage systems out there, and that hasn't been done yet. When it rains out there for more than a few hours at a time, you actually have to take your socks and shoes off and pull your pants up to get into your house because the ground holds the water. As you was talking about the speeding, I've had my fence taken out by kids who thinks it's fun to spin out in the dirt. I don't live in this house now, my dad does. He's been in this house now for 3 years. And he has a lot of health problems, and the dust has made his health problems worse. I think that putting in drainage systems and paving out there would actually help a lot. And I do pay my taxes. You know, between my two houses, I pay almost $4,000 a year in taxes, and I think part of that should go towards paving and putting drainage systems out there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Larry Roberts?
Larry Roberts, Chappie. I'm in the process of replacing a faulty roof. And this morning, not my roofers, he's a professional roofer, stepped on a piece of roofing and surfed his way down from the peak and out over the eave and about 12 feet to the ground. It hurt. Call the ambulance. They arrived in a very timely manner. The first two people there was, I recognized Steve Paget, the paramedic. I didn't recognize, and he was too busy for socialization, so I didn't get his name. Scott McDermott also showed up, and Chief Morgan. The guy, he had got a low back problem and maybe a hip problem and a cut on his hand. He should be okay, I think. He may have a broken bone, but I don't know yet. Anyway, they came, and as I said, in a timely manner, did their thing professionally, and they deserve an attaboy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Howard Kessler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Arts, for the arranging, as you do every year, for those sports physicals. I think it's a really good thing. It brings the community together, brings the doctors together in this. And I'm always happy to help out. But there's another weekend, the following weekend, where that's also going to be available for the people in the county. It's going to be held at River Springs Middle School on the 18th and 19th. May 18th will be from 2:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon, and May 19th, 8:30 to 12 p.m. So if you don't get it done in the usual manner at the new location this time at the Tallahassee Memorial Annex in Crawfordville, they have one more shot.
I wasn't sure how many clinicians were actually participating in that other event. Are you going to be at that second one?
Yeah, I'll be helping at both.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be at both.
Okay.
That's my first item. The second item, you've heard me speak to it before. It's about the taxes and fees. 5 areas of taxation and fees elevation in 1 year. It's really more than a lot of our people in the community can afford. And I've asked you some months ago to seriously start a dialogue to look at how this public service tax can be eliminated. And, you know, you have all these bites, both the little bites of the apple and the big bites of the apple. They add up to a bunch for a lot of people that don't have it. And so I just urge you again to start that dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Judith Harris?
Mimosa trees. There's a big one in my neighborhood. I'm out walking my dogs, and I think it's probably on the right-of-way, so perhaps Cleve will address that.
Still on Mount Beezer Church, Judy?
Well, I'm on Greeno, and this tree is on the corner, or just past the corner. You go onto Mount Beezer, and it goes onto Persimmon Road. So it's on Persimmon Road. On the right as you're going away from the Painted Bridge. And I walk my dogs out there a lot, so I'm going to be on the lookout for more mimosas.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruce Ashley with the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for your service. Wanted to take a few minutes tonight to put a spotlight on a very important time. At the end of this month, nearly 300 of our young men and women in our county are going to graduate high school. And under the leadership of Sheriff Crum, we are trying to put together a very, very special night for them, the night before they graduate. We're calling it Project Graduation. The Sheriff's Office here in our county has supported that event and put that event on for many years. The last few years, we took kids to Tallahassee and then brought them back to the county. We're trying to start something new this year. Sheriff Crum wants to bring this home, have our kids have a safe environment, a very memorable evening here in our county at what we consider a jewel at Wakulla Springs. And we have forged partnerships with a number of sponsors and a number of people who are going to help in support of that event. But we're asking for more support. If there are businesses in the community that want to help see a risk-free, alcohol-free, memorable event for our kids as they graduate high school, we're asking for their help. We've also, at the Coalition for Youth, asked for members of the community who want to chaperone at that event. We're going to have 2 shifts from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. and from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m.
We're going to entertain those kids. There's going to be a lot of special events and a lot of special activities, things that we hope to give to them that will further their education in the future in the way of prizes and a lot of activities and food, and just a very, very memorable day for those young folks. And so anybody that would be interested in supporting that very worthy cause of having our young folks graduate high school in our county with a big, big event at a very special place, we're asking them to contact the sheriff's office and let us know they want to help, and we'll find a way for them to help, because it's going to be at least 300 folks strong, and we're looking for a very memorable event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lastly, Mr. Chuck Robinson, who has declined to speak. This concludes citizens to be heard this evening. And as again, for some of those concerns, we might discuss them during discussion items, which will come at the end of the meeting tonight. Our last Commissioner agenda item this evening is another item by Commissioner Arts, Planning Commission refinements.
She says, I don't seem to have my... I'm in the same mess you're usually in.
Are you talking to me?
Computer isn't plugged in, it doesn't look like.
Yeah, you can use
No, it's fine, it's okay.
I don't need to see your agenda. You can use my computer.
Okay, this is a follow-up to the decision we made at our last meeting. The board approved adding Sopchoppy and St. Mark's to the Planning Commission, which is currently comprised of one representative for each district.
We approved bringing it back for a public hearing.
Right, okay, all right. And I had expressed some concerns at that meeting about that doing so creates an imbalance in the representation of different districts, and it also seems to give certain preferences to certain communities and not to others. So what I was suggesting was that if we're going to go that route of expanding the Planning Commission beyond the 5 districts, then what we should consider doing is expanding it further in a way that better balances the representation within among the districts, and also recognizes the importance of some of our other communities. So, for example, I suggested that we should add 2 voting members from the Crawfordville Town Core, one being a resident and one being a business owner. We make a lot of decisions here, especially as we move forward with the Crawfordville Town Plan, that are going to affect Crawfordville, and so I think Crawfordville should be adequately represented. And then I think we should add a voting member from Panacea. I thought also we should add a voting member from Wakulla Gardens. We've just had people here speaking about Wakulla Gardens, and that is it's a city in the making. And, you know, I know a lot of you may not have attended meetings before, but we certainly have talked about Wakulla Gardens and made many decisions related to Wakulla Gardens over probably a decade. And so, again, the Planning Commission and this body frequently make decisions related to Wakulla Gardens, so that makes sense to be represented. And then we added a county at-large position 3 years ago, and I'm suggesting that at-large position be preferentially selected to represent one of our other communities other than the 5 that have been identified. And this could be someone from Medart, Wakulla Station, Shell Point, Bethel, another sizable community in the county. And then lastly, for the minority at large position, which currently can be anywhere in the county, that if possible to select a minority representative from the district with the fewest voting representatives. Because otherwise we'll end up with some districts that have one vote on the planning commission and other districts that have 3 or whatever. So anyway, that was my suggestion, that if we're going to try and be more inclusive, let's do it right, let's be fair, let's be balanced. So I move that we direct the county attorney she's already amending the ordinance based on the discussion last week, to further amend it as described and to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider adopting this expanded planning commission.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Not even a second for discussion so that citizens could speak?
Not for me.
Alan?
As opposed to second.
You can pass the gavel. All right.
We'll pass the gavel for the second and let the citizens speak.
Thank you.
Judy?
I think Lynn's proposal shows a lot of thought to, what could be done to make the balance of representation on the board more fair. You might have to find a bigger meeting room for the planning commission if you were to adopt it. But I definitely think if we're going to make a change, then we might as well make a change that makes more of the county represented. Thank you.
Bob?
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Bob Danzy. Well, first of all, I think that what we should do is continue down the road we're continuing down, except there's a little more to it. Back, I guess in 2009, there was ordinance number 0917 and ordinance number 0916. They were both added in to change and to really take the teeth out of the planning commission. One of these changed and took the 2 members off. The other one took the ability for the planning commission to approve a preliminary plat, and if they denied it, then there would have had to been a supermajority with the commissioners. I would like for both of you, I'll be happy to email you these. I realize we can't speak to each other, but I'll be happy to email these two ordinances, the change of ordinance to you so you can understand it. I think it'd be proper to just repeal these two, put things back like they were, and then let the county move ahead. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You just repeal these two, I guess, amendments to the ordinance. And there's also a bylaw. The Wakulla County Planning Commission has a bylaw that'll have to be changed in, just for the record. So I think this just makes a lot more sense, a lot simpler, a lot cleaner. Just repeal them. Thank you.
Well, yeah, one thing I would hate to see, I know the original one that I put forth had lined up the terms of the planning commissioners better with the county commissioners, which made, I would hate to see that tossed out. When a commissioner comes on board, they should be able to appoint who they want on the planning commission, and the terms didn't match before, and so that was one of the positive things that I think was accomplished. Now, I'm not aware of the other things you're talking about, so yes, I am interested in seeing those. But I guess I would disagree that the answer is to get rid of what's been passed.
Any more discussion?
I thought, though, at least, and again, I don't know that I'll end up supporting the original motion when it comes back up for public hearing, but I thought that Commissioner Art's suggestion of having the county at large representatives come from, if we move forward with adding St. Mark's and South Choppy back to the Planning and Zoning Board, I think that consideration to have the at-large people look at coming from different districts that don't include St. Mark's and South Choppy was a good suggestion, just as a preferential treatment. I know that, so I thought that was a good idea.
Thank you.
Basically, when we're not technically adding two, we're just bringing back, because when you voted to take St. Mark and South Choppy off the voting membership of the Planning Commission, all I'm doing is asking to bring them back on as voting members.
Well, I appreciate that you're viewing it that way. I know that for 3 years we've had a planning commission that with one representative for each district that's been working fine. And to me, the motion at the last meeting could and should have been viewed, I think, as whether you wanted to add them. If they had, my own feeling is that when that was originally set up, that it was probably a mistake, and that they shouldn't have been on originally. And now we're in a position of looking objectively, okay, we have the county commission and our planning commission, one representative for each district. Do we want to change that? Do we want to add anyone else? And starting fresh, I would think you're very hard pressed to justify why picking those two entities in the county when everything we vote on doesn't affect them.
Sarge, I don't want to argue about this too much, but wouldn't your point also be valid? Let's say the minority lived in the city of South Choppy. Could have 3 members from South Choppy, right?
Right.
It's perfectly fine, by the way.
But I'm actually suggesting that the minority representative, if there's two from District 5, which is my district, and 2 from Jerry's, that then that minority representative maybe be from 1 or 2, so you have 2 representatives from your district.
If we were single-member districts, maybe I would go along with that argument, but we all know we're not just representing our district. We're voted at large throughout the whole county, so that's just my opinion.
I have spoken with staff a little bit about this, and my concerns with this, and there's been talk of trying to reach out to South Choppy and St. Mark's and see if there might be some way of doing some sort of joint planning and zoning board in the future. I don't know if that'll come forward or not, but there's been discussion.
That would be I think that would be a good way to go.
I have spoken with some citizens in South Choppy. I need to reach out more to people in St. Mark's about this issue in particular, and they feel concerns that the same concerns we would have, that we could build something around the doorstep of South Choppy in the same way we might feel concerns that they can build something on the doorstep of unincorporated Wakulla County, just on the other side of South Choppy. So, I don't know.
Any more? Off the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Aye. Motion fails. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our citizens commissioner items. Thank you. Sorry, my mind went blank when I read the next item. County attorney items. Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let you all know, as you're aware, coming up, not next week, but the week after, the week of the 21st, the county is going to be involved in a trial. It's going to be in Panama City. We're not handling it. Your fact insurance counsel is handling it. But you may see a few less staff people around because of the commitments over there. Additionally, I wanted to offer up to any of the board members who may wish to be the county's representative the opportunity to stand up and be the county's representative at the trial, or alternatively, give the county administrator the ability to appoint the county's representative for the trial.
I think it would be a good idea to give David the authority.
That's what I thought you'd think, so.
I agree.
Second.
I know it's not an official motion, so is there anyone who objects to that idea? All right. Thank you for the update. County Administrator?
Thank you, Chairman. I passed out earlier, each one of you should have our monthly worksheet as far as where we stand on the finances. As you know, this is our mid-year. This would be accounting for our mid-year. Currently in the general fund, as you can see, we have under-collected revenues by about almost $116,000. We're under budget on expenses by $140,000. We've added a line, that's after smoothing. We've added a line underneath to keep track of, so you know where we stand on reserves at any one point in time. Currently, we're on budget and on target. We'll be added $24,000 to our anticipated reserves of $480,000 that we'd budgeted to reserve. So at the end of the year, if the year was to end today, we would have a reserve fund of $2.2 million. Our targeted goal is $4.4 million. That gets us to where that's 3 months worth of expenses that we can pay for, and that's our targeted goal, is 3 months worth of expenses. So therefore, we're $2.2 million away from that goal. So we've got probably 2 or 3 more years before we'll obtain that goal to where we'll be fully funded on the reserves.
Which initially, David, we had figured 10 years to try to get there.
Right.
So I think just the fact.
Yeah, the steps that you took last year and us holding serve this year have boded well, and hopefully we can we can maintain this. Right now we're on track to be able to maintain these. As you'll see, your road fund is doing okay. We're a little over budget on our expenses, but the sewer fund continues to struggle, even though it doesn't look terribly bad. But we still have some issues with our sewer fund, so we're concerned about that. And then the solid waste fund, the landfill fund, currently looks bad, but is getting better. That's a fund that will heal itself over time. So therefore, we feel real positive about the landfill fund, and it's going to take a couple of years to get there, but we will get there on the landfill fund. So anyway, that's our mid-year update. You got any questions on that?
This looks great. Greg worked on it, and we went over this at the budget committee. Is there any way it can be distilled down for, say, 6th grade education instead of master's degree? Just a line item, here's your P&L, here's, something a little simpler. It is, you remember our meetings?
Yeah.
The colors and the
well, the different colors are for smoothing purposes, and what that means, basically red is meaning we're concerned about that, either that revenue or that revenue coming in or that expense going over. Green means we're good, and that's just part of the smoothing, meaning that it will catch up over time, and the yellow means let's just keep an eye on it. So, we're concerned about it, but yet it's not to the red portion yet. We feel like we'll recover, but we still have to watch it closely.
I'm colorblind, so it's hard for me.
You're colorblind, so that's the reason I printed it out in color.
You know what I'm saying? If there's just a little, here's the bottom line, we're good, we're not good. Looks like we're good.
We're good. And that's the purpose of that bottom line budget for analysis period. That's the reason I put that right there. So we're in good shape, and we're making strides. We still have to, we still got to get up to that reserve mark to really get to where we can become more liquid and be able to do more. We have to get to that point.
Well, and I also want to echo. You mentioned that the solid waste fund, we're slowly starting to climb out of that hole. But last year and the several years before that, we were losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
We'd been
where we were handling solid waste.
What we'd had to do, we'd really be in bad shape.
And we would,
no joke. That number would be $2 to $3 million.
The most important one for us then is, for a snapshot, is budget for analysis period.
Yes, that's right, and that's the profit loss is just under that. If you, or compared to budget, you see we're $115,977 under on collection of revenues, and we're $140,000 ahead on expenses.
So those basically cancel each other out.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you for the update.
Very good.
And you want to update us on Wakulla Gardens road stabilization?
Yes, we've had I've had road out there with Cleve, and we've looked at a number of options, weighing all of the issues that we've got. We're looking at, and we're continuing to look at different things that we can put out there. But at the end of the day, as you know, we just don't have money in our budget to be able to fit in a comprehensive program. So therefore, we have to look at it from a short-term fix, and then what can we do long-term. Short-term, what we're looking at currently is sometime over the next 3 to 4 weeks, beginning a mixing operation. We've got to work it out with the school board, and when their buses and everything, we've got to work it out, is look at a mixing operation to be able to mix some of the worst roads that we put limestone on, remix that base in, and we did that. We tried a couple areas on that, and the dust doesn't seem to be quite as bad. We're also going to be looking at some inexpensive dust retardant. The problem is those things are expensive, and a lot of times they cause other problems, and they're not don't work that well over an extended period of time.
Is that calcium chloride you're looking at?
Calcium chloride, and this has its positives and it's got its negatives, and it's expensive, and very expensive. That's money we do not have. So, but we're looking at different things, and we haven't we haven't forgot about that. Long term, currently we'll be coming back at the next board meeting to present a long-term plan to potentially get out of the ditch, if it may. This will be a revenue, how to generate the revenues, and/or a financing plan for Wakulla Gardens, so that we can begin to work on the stormwater, as well as pave some corridor roads to start off with, so that we hopefully can get all the corridor roads paved. We'll be bringing that back to the board at the next board meeting to consider on which way to go and move forward from there.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional county administrator discussion items?
Yes, I have, just to let you know, today started our the first day of SHIP applications being accepted. We had 33 folks come in and sign up, and it'll run through Friday. So we'll close it out on Friday the 11th. We had pretty good today. We thought we'd get more, but citizens that are listening, please, that need help, please come to the office. And
how much money are we? It's it's stimulus dollars that we're looking to spend the last of.
That's right.
Is it stimulus dollars?
Well, it's the state SHIP funds that are left over and to close out the program, because this will be it. So
and of that, how much? But how many hundreds of thousands of dollars are we looking to?
I want to say it was around $250,000 plus or minus a little bit in there. So I can't remember but that's going well. So I advise anyone, if please come out, and this is your chance, and this is probably the only chance you'll have for the next couple of years until it gets funded again.
Yeah.
Currently, we are also, just to give you an update on the hardship applications, 74 have come in to date, and 60 of those have been accepted, and that closeout is June 1st.
And that's for the solid waste. They need to have the application.
And fire
MSBU, you need to have your hardship application in by June 1st. Thank you for that reminder.
That's right. Okay, that's it.
Okay. So we're now moving on to commissioner discussion items. I wanted to, real quick, before we got too much into the discussion items, have a follow-up on the earlier conversation that John started on 2020. He suggested two names, and then we had Jeff Ewald as a additional name. Do we have any, we need a motion. I'm good with either. I know Jeff wanted to.
I'll make the motion, we approve those.
The two that
George
and Don Hinch.
As long as you're all right with that, because like Ms. Arch said, that like, it's really, right, Ms. Arch, you had said initially that Alan was advocating.
Jeff, you all?
Yeah, and then because I haven't spoken with Jeff, I don't know if he's filled other obligations. Like I didn't even think about that, but I should have. And thank you. I think I'm okay with these two people that John's chosen.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
The motion should be to have us amend the resolution that we previously adopted. You can do that from the floor, and I can get the chairman to sign it, but can somebody please give me the actual names?
George Green?
No.
George Green.
George Green? I said George Johnson. That's George Green. George? Okay. Yeah.
And that's the at-large?
And that is replacing the at-large.
Yes.
Billy Mills.
And
Have we, my question is, have we spoke to these two people who haven't shown up? Have they said they have no desire to serve on?
My understanding is that both people have indicated they're okay with being replaced, and both people have volunteered. I know Skip. Yeah, so.
I thought they were actually voluntarily said they didn't want to be on it anymore.
My understanding is these two people have both said they are wanting to be replaced, and these are the names. And then Dan Hinchy. Yes. We'll get the spellings for you at the end of the meeting. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Now moving on to just general discussion items. Commissioner Arts?
I wanted to thank the people from Wakulla Gardens who took the time to be here tonight. And it is important for you to be involved and so we fully appreciate the problems, but also to stay informed about the various discussions and decisions that we've made, because I think most of us consider Wakulla Gardens one of the biggest problems that the county has. It's soon after I came on board, I did a workshop on it, looking at possible ways to solve these problems. I know the board before I came on, Commissioner Bremner had led some initiatives. I know Chairman Mike Stewart has really been leading the efforts to get grant funding to do stormwater management, and the gravel that's now created some unintended problems was a grant that we got to try and address all the flooding and the people who couldn't get to their homes. And one thing that has happened fairly recently is we have gotten a grant, and we'll have an advanced team of, I think, 3 experts coming in June, and then a full team of about 6 experts coming in July, who will be here for 3 to 5 days. Again, trying to figure out what is the most effective, practical, affordable way to try and resolve the problems. So I know I have Tammy's email. If I get contact information from the others of you, I'll make sure you know about those meetings when they're coming up.
And don't forget to give you my $100. That's what that's for, right?
Right.
Alan? I'm talking about Wakulla Gardens.
Yeah, and this part, just general conversation, as general discussion on Wakulla Gardens would be appropriate.
I want to make sure that you folks, Tammy, I know you and I have talked several times, and several others in the gardens, but we haven't forgotten y'all. I mean, I know y'all feel like you're second-class citizens, but that's not the intent of this board. I promise you that. By no means do we, any of us up here, intend for y'all to feel that way. The issue is it comes down to money and the priority it takes to fix the issues that are over there, and the biggest one is we've all agreed finally that we've got to address stormwater in all of Wakulla Gardens, and we have begun that. We at least have now gotten grant money, and we have completed a study. We have everything done, the engineering and all is done. Now we just got to find money, and we just met last week. David and I met with Congressman Sutherland, trying to get some federal help, and he's given us some contacts. We're working that as quickly as we can. to try to find a way to get federal grants to help us, especially with the stormwater. But the bottom line is, folks, that all of you from Wakulla Gardens need to understand that in the end, what grant money we can't get, you're going to have to pay for it, and it's going to probably mean a special assessment. And I know that's not a popular answer, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. And we're going to, you know, what I'd like to see us do, and the board I think has agreed to this, is that we're going to generate some form of letter to go out, a survey to you to ask you what you're willing to do. But I don't want to send anything out until we understand what the cost is, what the real costs are, so that when you look at that survey, you can say, all right, it's going to cost me X amount, whether it's $100 or it's $200 a year, special assessment on top of my taxes, which I think is probably a safe number, somewhere around $200 or less. But until we finish this whole process, we won't know. But $200 on your tax bill will get your roads stormwater in, and it'll get your roads paved. Now, will all the roads get paved? No, it's like David said earlier, we want to start, that assessment would pay for the perimeter roads or the main travel roads, and then you'll have connector roads so that you can go across and hit a paved road to get out onto the main drag. That's what we want to try to do. And I can tell you, we've worked harder on Wakulla Gardens, and I feel like we've just been spinning our wheels, no pun intended, and have gotten little traction. But we're trying. And I know that don't make you guys go away home and feel any better, but we're trying, and we're going to be close with this special assessment idea, this survey coming out to you, so that you can tell us if the majority of the people in there say they want to do it, then I think the board is going to have the intestinal fortitude to move forward with imposing this special assessment so that it can be paid for. I don't see any other way to do it. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and that's the only way to fix it. So we really are hearing you, but you need to keep letting us hear you. This idea of mixing this dirt back in with the base, I think, is the best idea for the short term to get you. I mean, it's a mess over there what y'all have now. With no rain, I can't imagine living there. It's just a powder. It's like flour over there. And I think this will help. Is it going to alleviate the dust? No, but I think it will cut down at least, I want to say 50% or better of the dust. It cost us, we figured it up, I think it's $87,000 to come in to apply this calcium chloride to the roads, which will last 4 months.
If that long.
4 months, if it lasts that long, and that's just pouring money into a black hole, and we don't want to do that. So
and money we don't have.
That we don't have, and I thought if it would last, if somebody told me it'd last 2 years or longer, I'd say let's go spend the money and do it, but not the last 4 months. So we got a lot of. We're working on it. We have spent a lot of time on it. We're going to continue to spend a lot of time on it, and we've done a ton of workshops.
Yes.
That's been advertised, and I'd like to encourage, as we have workshops on this, y'all need to get manned up and come in, and like you are here tonight. There's a ton of folks that live over there. We want to hear you. We got to know what's going on. We do know what's going on, but I want to make sure you feel like at least we have an ear for your problem.
Hey, Commissioner Arch wants to address. We're not going to take any citizen comments during the discussion time, but you'll be able to talk to us at the end of the meeting individually.
Right. I just wanted to, I know some people have said, well, we pay taxes and whatever, but I'm not sure most people appreciate the magnitude of how much it will cost to really address all the problems there. And we got an estimate done by our engineer less than a year ago that put it was over $34 million. And divided among all the properties in Wakulla Gardens, that would be like $822 per year for each of you for 15 years on top of the taxes you're paying, because the taxes you're paying go to other things like ambulance and schools and other things that you're using also. So it's certainly not lack of desire to solve the problems. It's just, it is going to be a huge long-term and expensive undertaking. And the last thing is, I feel badly if some of you feel that you were made promises, because it wasn't by anybody up here. I think there have been people trying to sell properties or whatever who maybe have misled you, but I'm sorry that you feel that promises were made and not kept, because we've been trying really hard to be honest about how serious and expensive these problems are going to be to fix.
Commissioner Moore?
Basically, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what the problem is, and it's dust. It's the fact that you don't have pavement in your road. It seems to me, I had a meeting this week, it seems to me we've been trying to do everything and charge you for everything and do it all at the same time. I'm not worried about the stormwater. I'm not worried about the sewer. I'm not worried about the water. I'm just worried about getting you some pavement down. Here again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. When I met with the people this week, I said, let's get some pavement down. Forget these other things. Granted, they are things that are needed, and they would probably be better to have been done first. But the primary thing that we need is to get some pavement down. And I can tell you folks in Wakulla Gardens, I will not vote for any other road in the county to be paved before you get pavement. I will not vote for another county road to be paved or anything to do with a county road being paved until we start paving some roads in Wakulla Gardens. We should, it just doesn't make sense. You folks need the roads. If it was just a little bit of dust or whatever, that would be something else. But I've communicated that, and I will not vote for any other roads to be paved until primarily if we can start paving it doesn't matter. We just have to start paving in Wakulla Gardens and quit talking about it. And the way to do that is to put it number one on our list. We can't pave it all, but we can start.
Jerry, I want to make sure everybody understands there's already about 15 roads that past boards have already voted on. So even if we don't vote to pave another road in the county, there's still about 10 or 12 out there that have been voted and have been approved. So I don't want people to get mad at you if the county starts paving, say, Ashley Hall or something that's going to be a collector road, and they say, well, Jerry, there already are roads out there.
I appreciate you saying that, Randy, but I didn't approve those roads, neither will I approve them. And if it's all possible, I would ask the board to take a look at something that we have approved and reverse that decision and take that into Wakulla Gardens, if it can be done.
And to be clear, right now we're not paving any roads. We've put a freeze on the roads. The last road we did finally pave Old Shell Point Road, but that was approved and budgeted for 2 years ago, and the freeze just got that road paved, and we have not approved the new road, the funding for a new road. There are roads approved to be paved, but we've not approved the funding to actually move through since before you were elected.
Then basically I would say this: if we have approved roads to be paved, then we go back to that and readjust it, and put Wakulla Gardens at number one position.
I look forward to you bringing forward that agenda item.
I'll be glad to do that.
I want to do a couple of quick things just to touch on things, just so everybody understands just a little bit of how some of the other projects that are going on. One, Wakulla County is a rural area of economic concern, a fiscally constrained county, which y'all know. But I say that because we also get scrap and SCOP funding, which allows us to resurface roads that have already been paved. It's state tax dollars that pay for that. We can't pave new roads with that money. So when you see a road like Raywinkle getting repaved, that is because that is a resurfacing funded through the scrap or the SCOP program, and the state actually picks what roads get resurfaced. We give them suggestions, they make a choice, then it gets done. But we could not use those same funds to even pave the roads around Raywinkle, because you're not the only historic neighborhood having these problems. Right there off Raywinkle is the Grinders and Magnolia Gardens, which were drawn at the exact same time. It's my understanding, I think the same people, just closer to Crawfordville, and they had the exact same issues without anything getting paved there. So I just want to let you know when you see some of these projects getting done, why they're getting done, so that you aren't getting angry. There's a lot of restrictions on the way our money comes to us. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is the money we do pay our roads within Wakulla County comes from our gas tax that we collect when people buy gas in Wakulla County. I encourage you all to...
Sales tax.
Is it 1 cent sales tax? Oh, well, no, it's both, isn't it?
It's both.
It's both.
Road maintenance, though, is gas tax.
Road maintenance.
Road paving is 1 cent sales tax.
Well, use your money. Buy your stuff in Wakulla. The more money we have, the more money we can put towards your roads. I was going to make the point that it's really, I'm sure a lot of you don't do this, but from Wakulla Gardens, you can get to Tallahassee and never pass a gas station. So you might have to go out of your way in Wakulla County. So you might have to go out of your way to buy gas or shop in Wakulla. But do that because it's not your property taxes that are using to fix these roads. It's the money you're spending at our stores and our gas stations that are going to fix the roads and make improvements. So be thinking about that when you're making your decisions about where to shop. And again, we're continuing to look forward. I think you're going to see this coming up over and over again as we continue to try and find solutions. And again, none of us, we're trying very hard to figure out what to do, but it's really hard because we don't have the money. And I hope that this conversation that moves forward regarding the survey of everyone in the neighborhood might offer some opportunities. Commissioner Moore talks about how he's not concerned about the stormwater. And we're going to let, again, the people of Wakulla Gardens decide what improvements that they're willing to see and how we're going to do this.
Well, there's certain,
I am
a wrench into the machine, but there's certain state permits you have to do. When you pave a road, you have to do the stormwater.
We have to do stormwater, folks. Please understand that we cannot deviate from stormwater. You have to do it because if we pave a road and it dumps water into your yard, which I guarantee you it will, then you're going to sue us and we're going to lose because we have now taken your property.
Regardless of that, the state won't let you do that.
Well, that was the point I was going to make is 2 years ago there was flooding issues and the roads were rivers and we put rocks in them to stabilize it and then a drought's come on, so now the roads are dusty. We're trying our best to figure out what solutions. The rocks were put in there with a FEMA grant because of flooding that happened. That was federal money from a FEMA grant in response to floods. We're trying in the dust. Yeah. So we're just trying to. I'm making sure you're aware that we have to try and take it all into consideration to try and figure out the best way to make sure we don't mess up your houses through our trying to help you.
That is part of our long-term. I'll be presenting is a portion of that will be minimal stormwater work to go along with road paving. So, and then a long-term plan after that for stormwater. Because you're right, Randy, we can't just put pavement down and not address stormwater because
you can't just do a swale exemption anymore.
That's right. That's right. So we understand that.
We do what the law requires to get roads started paving, and I'll tell the people in Wakulla Gardens that I will bring an agenda issue forward that we back off something that may be number one and we put your roads on number one. Now, whether that'll be voted for or not, but I will bring that forward to put you folks in number one position. Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't, but at least we will try to do that, or at least I will try to do that.
Well, and also just to indicate, as we're looking at roads, so everyone understands, we've got several different systems that have ranked roads in the county. So when that comes up, I hope you all come back and we can have a really good conversation and discuss if it's worthwhile or not to try and make improvements. We are looking, I commend our public works team with ESG and our county staff. They are investing the energy to try and find a solution to make this better. And I commend all of our commissioners. Again, we spend a lot of time talking about this, and I'm hoping we're moving in the right direction. And so, are there other discussion items this evening, Commissioner?
Jerry, go ahead.
We'll let Jerry go first.
Goodness, Ms. Arts, I'm taking as much time as you do. We're spending about the same amount of time. Anyway, I would like to compliment all the people in the county for the amount of events that we've had in the last couple of weeks. We have had thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have come to this county and spent their money and had a good time. Just to mention, we had a kayak tournament, and the Senior Center was a recipient of about $7,000 from the kayak tournament. There were 125 entries from all over the southeast who came to this beautiful county to fish out of kayaks. St. Mark's had a kids fishing tournament. Mr. Mike McNamara and the St. Mark's Outfitters sponsored that, and they gave away 80 fishing rods and reels. There was a regatta down at Shell Point where hundreds of people came, lots of them from Tallahassee, but from all over the southeast people came to the regatta down there. We had a wonderful fishing tournament called Rock the Dock at Panacea. They had 300, it was sponsored by Waterfronts. They had 325 entrants to that tournament, and that was thousands of people, and they spent, when you run a boat, just a little bit above an ordinary boat, that thing only takes about 400 gallon when you fill it up. I mean, that just gets you out on the water, so you can imagine. A couple of weeks ago, we had a G20. It was a Christian meeting of men talking about how you take care of your family and your children. They held their retreat. There were 300 of them all over the southeast. They held their retreat at the 3Y Ranch. Wild About Wakulla, that was a full week of events that from all over the county. They were at Wakulla Springs, St. Mark, Panacea, all over the county. It was probably one of the best events that we had, or one of the good ones. Last weekend we had the Blue Crab. There were thousands of people at the Blue Crab, and most of them from out of town. They come down to the Blue Crab. A couple of weeks prior to that was the Worm Grunting. The 4-H people here in town had 400 people, 300 or 400 people sign up, and they were at the park. So we have the upcoming July 4th at Sopchoppy, and we have the Stone Crab. We've had thousands and thousands of people coming to spend money here, so it's I welcome those people, and they come here because you folks are nice people and receive them well, and thank you so very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Stewart? Commissioner Merritt?
Yes, Jerry, I wanted to tell you that I've probably diverged with you on saying that we need to stop everything and go pave Wakulla Gardens. I think we absolutely need to pave the roads that serve the most people first. That's how we paved Wakulla Air, for example, Martin Luther King. I mean, when I had Cleve's job back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Wakulla Air was dirt from McDonald's all the way through to Mr. High's house over there on Shadyville Highway. That's what I think our paving money needs to go to first. Now, I did tell you that I agreed, for example, Tafflinger in Magnolia Gardens, if there's a loop road or whatever that will serve a lot of people, I could probably go along with that if it's not going to kill something that serves more people. You know, I think we need to approach this logically, and, you know, let's get a methodology, let's follow it. I know it's real easy, and I sympathize with everybody. I lived in Brook Forest, and it was very dusty, and we had to get together and pave the road ourselves, and we had to pay for it. I'm not saying that's the solution for it, but personally, I think we need to pave the roads. That 1 cent sales tax is for roads that benefit the most people, the collector roads. But again, like I said, that just paving Tafflinger and Magnolia Gardens made a big difference because most everybody drove that road. And I know there's a couple, I don't remember the name, there's so many roads. Feather Trail, I think, the one that kind of loops around and would really help. But anyway, another thing I'd like to talk about briefly is one thing that's been a grief in the past is acquiring right-of-way on a lot of roads. I'd like to let us begin look at giving David the authority to enter into a contract, and Heather gave me an email about it. It'd be a contract for an option, I think is what it's called, where he could go out and say we need 10 feet wide, 50 feet long, that's 5,000 square feet, give him the authority up to a certain dollar value per acre. You know, the bigger the property is, obviously, but he could say, I'll give you $3,000 for that piece of property, and that would be within his spending range. Now, the board would have to approve it, but you remember how it used to be. You have to go beg and plead and, you know, offer to fence or whatever to try to get 5 foot of right-of-way.
The only problem, Randy, you remember, is that once you pay the first, once you start paying.
That's right.
If I was willing to give, and then you're my next door neighbor and they paid you, I might think twice about giving because now I want to be paid.
I think at one time, for example,
you set.
on Old Shell Point Road, for example, we had appraisals done of every one of those pieces of property. And I think the board at the time was just to go ahead and get it and get the proper 60-foot of right-of-way was willing to pay for it. Now, that only applies, of course, to major projects. And I just want to get y'all's mind thinking about it. But imagine that, at Wakulla area where it intersects Trice Lane, it tapers down to nothing, 25 feet wide, because we couldn't get somebody to give a piece of property.
But if we're going to pave a road that costs $100,000 to pave, let's just use that number, and we ended up having to pay $50,000 for right-of-way, which we very easily could, then you don't have money.
Okay, well, only on, we would have to give him certain restrictions, of course. Now, you remember we went through on Cager Posey, when we did eminent domain across from the Shells, we ended up spending $40,000 or $50,000 on a little piece of property about 10 feet wide, and, I don't know how big it is, it was nothing. Because that's how much eminent domain costs. So only if it's a project that's a super priority like that, I guess, not just... I don't want to blow our paving money on buying right away. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. But, for example, if he could go to the corner of Old Shell Point in one of those roads and buy a piece of that corner so people could see to get out on the road. You see what I'm saying?
I understand. Okay. I just don't want to get in the business.
I know.
Spending all of our money on right-of-way, and then we're sitting there with a right-of-way, and we still can't pave it for 15, 20 years because we don't have any paving money.
Well, if it's a big, let's say if it's a short road that Ashley Hoff just comes to mind, for example, that would connect County Line Road with Bob Miller, and it's only, what, half a mile long or whatever? We decided that's a priority. Give him the authority to go out there and offer people money instead of having it come in front of the board and haggle about it. That's all I'm saying. That's it for me.
All right. Administrator Edwards, I believe you indicated that she needs to make one more statement.
Yes, I do. As Commissioner Stewart said, he and I met with Congressman Sutherland last week, and we discussed three things. One of those was top of the agenda was Wakulla Gardens and any federal help that could be given there, as well as US 319, about the possibility of widening US 319 here in Wakulla County, and the possible concerns we have with evacuations, hurricane evacuations with Franklin County coming up through the county, and widening 319. And also we discussed with him the BP oil fine money and its final disposition, and it looks like, according to him, that it should be this year that money will actually flow down to the states. And in that same tone, Commissioner Brock and I, we attended a meeting in Biloxi with the counties that were affected from Texas all the way to Florida, to Wakulla County. Were affected as the coalition, the small county coalition or the counties coalition, for the BP oil restoration, about the disbursement of those funds, and also how to continue lobbying Congress and the Senate to make sure those funds get cut loose and get distributed down to the state level, as well as within the state, making sure those funds get down to the counties that were affected. So that's the biggest thing that this coalition is trying to put together, is make sure those funds come to the counties and not get mixed up into the state funds, so that we get, and what our intent is to get our share of the funds, so that we can put together projects that will help our economy here that was affected by the BP oil spill. And in that light, we'll be bringing the next meeting. We'll be bringing also a list of projects that are coastal and related, as from an economic as well as infrastructure standpoint, that are coastal oriented for you guys to approve, so that we can go ahead and present those to NERDA, so that we'll have them in line whenever the BP oil money comes in, if and when it comes into effect. So anyway, I just want to let everyone know what we've been up to and doing on those aspects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.